Hello everyone, this is Kelly and I'd like to welcome you back to the Honeybee Stamps YouTube channel and our Sunkissed Summer YouTube Hop. Make sure you check out the description box below for all the wonderful videos from our design team members and all the information about our Hop prizes. Okay, today I am creating with Kelley Taylor's wonderful Anchor of Hope stamp set, the coordinating dies, and then the netting background cover plate. Now I have some watercolor paper that is the lumpy bumpy. I'm using the lumpy bumpy side, which a lot of times I don't do. A lot of times I'll stamp on the smooth side, but I'm stepping out of my comfort zone here. I am stamping that beautiful seashell and plumeria image that Kelley drew with some VersaFine black onyx ink, because once I heat set this, it is going to be ink and water friendly. So I have stamped that a couple of times. I'm making sure I get a really good impression on the watercolor cardstock. And then, like I mentioned before, I'm going to heat set this really well, make sure that ink is good and dry before I start adding pigment and water to it. So again, like I've done in one of the previous videos, I'm going to do kind of a pretend fake watercolor. I'm not a very good watercolorist, but I can fake it till I make it, right? I'm going to use the Tombow like brush pen markers, and I can just simply add down or add little flicks of pigment here and there, and then take a wet or damp paintbrush to that pigment and kind of pull it out to color in the image. So you can see up there to the top left on that piece of cardstock, I have swatched each color, because sometimes when you use pigment markers or especially markers that are going to break down with water, sometimes the pigment will break down and be a little bit different than what you anticipate. For example, you can see I'm adding this in here and it looks very yellowy orange to start out with. But once I add the water in with my paintbrush, it's going to be that really pretty kind of buttery yellow. So I'm just going in and adding this kind of orangey yellow into the center of each of the plumeria blooms, and then going to take my damp paintbrush and pull out that color to color in all of the little petals. One thing that I tried to be very careful to do before I changed colors or before I added in any kind of shading or darker areas, for example, into those little petals, is I try to be sure to take my heat tool and dry each layer of my watercoloring, or where I'm coloring that in. That allows me to add different colors or add shading into those little petals and things without worrying about them bleeding into other areas. And that makes it a lot easier for me to get that kind of faux watercolor look. You can see there in the petals, especially where I've added in darker shading into and around Kelley's drawn lines in those images. That was done by first heating up and drying the pale yellow underneath, and then adding a little bit of darker pigment or darker areas over the top. So I tried to do that with my heat tool when I remember, and now I'm going in the leaves and adding in green, and first just adding in an all over color, so added the pigment down with the Tombow markers, and then pulling all that out and coloring it in with my paintbrush. Now, once I got the all over green, it's kind of looking a little limey green here. And you can see I remembered to go in with my heat tool and make sure the green or the underlayer on those leaves were all nice and dry. Now you can see the darker shade that I have scribbled directly onto my glass mat. Now this is how I get kind of that puddly watercolor look. Instead of taking the marker back to the watercolor paper, I scribble the pigment down onto the glass mat and pick it up with my damp brush. This allows me to kind of drop in those little puddles, and that's what's giving it more of kind of the watercolory look without having to be just a really great watercolor artist. I can kind of fake it and drop in those little puddles and then go back in and heat set everything to set those little puddles into place. Now I'm going in on the little seashell. And you can see up there at the top, again, I have swatched out that color and it starts out very hot pink looking. But once I take the paintbrush and pull out or dilute that pigment, I get that very kind of creamy coral looking pink. And that's what I wanted to go for this seashell. Now I needed to add some color or pigment up towards the top of the shell, and that's when I scribbled it onto my glass mat and diluted it with water and added it that way. I didn't want to take my marker up there towards the top because that would give me that really dark hot pink, so I didn't want to do that. So I diluted it on my glass mat first and dropped it in that way. Now I'm going in with a brown actually, and so this is going to give me the shadows or a little bit of dimension underneath the petals and the leaves of the flowers. I very lightly added in kind of that grayish brown tone. You can see I've swatched it up there towards the top as well. Very lightly dropped it in with the marker, and then I can use the wet paintbrush to dilute and drag all that out to kind of stretch out that shadow around the leaves and around each of those little petals. Okay, now our beautiful seashell needs a background to sit on. And this may be more intimidating to me than coloring in the image. And I don't know why. I don't do very well with like the loosey-goosey um, kind of watercolory look, but I'm going to try here. So I have placed two regular distress inks. So this is Mermaid Lagoon and Sea Glass, I believe. So really like a blue turquoisey colors. I first used a clean paintbrush with water on it and added, drops and swatches of water across my watercolor paper. And you notice there to the bottom, when I kind of ran out of water that was already on the paper, I started getting like the little brush marks. I didn't want that. I wanted it to be really diluted. So I heat set what I already had down first, and then I went back in with just clean water to add in over the top of the watercolor paper, and then again I'm going with the pigment into the ink or into the with my water brush and then to the paper. Now you can see broken china over there. I added broken china instead of like a sea glass color, but broken china, Mermaid Lagoon, and I just keep working this paper, drying it in between until I get what I'm looking for. Now I finally spritzed everything with water, even the background, because I wasn't getting the coverage that I wanted. And then I started tapping my paper into the pigment that was left on my glass mat. And I could heat it up in between, make sure I dried the really wet parts that were on the edges. I spritzed the pigment that was left on my glass mat again with just water, and then heat set everything in between. Now I've got this kind of blue, washed out, watercolory look that I'm going to apply my netting background to. Okay, so I wanted my netting to be crumpled up, rumpled up like an old piece of fishing net. I actually am spritzing that netting background with water. I crumpled it up in my hands and then pulled it apart, and that was perfect. The little spritz of water made that pliable enough to where I could really make it nice and crinkly. You can see that there to add to the background. Next, I am taking just little dots of our liquid adhesive, and I can add to the points in the netting that are going to connect to the paper underneath. And so I'm going to apply that down, and the points that I added the glue to, I'm just going to set my fingers down and then let that liquid adhesive do its job and connect to my kind of watery watercolor background there underneath the netting. Next, I can take my die cut seashell, which is all ready to go. I love that coral color with the green and with the blue background. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive there to the raised portions of that netting background and press my seashell right on top, and everything's going to kind of just nestle in there. Next, I took the whole stamp set and I'm holding up those pretty sentiments to figure out which one I want to use or which one will fit better onto my card. I have chosen Love You to the Beach and Back, and I have stamped that in our intense black ink, and I'm going to heat set that to make sure that ink is nice and dry before I use the coordinating die to cut out the sentiment. I'm going to use a portion of our little tabbed foam dots and a little bit of liquid adhesive, and attached the foam dots and the sentiment with a little bit of those foam dots and glue. So the glued side over on the left is going to attach to the raised portion of the netting, and then I can use those foam dots to kind of pop that up on the blue portion of the background. I'm going to use the Grab Your Passport gem stickers. So these are the faceted little gems. Kind of place those here and there around the sentiment and down into the netting around that seashell. And then here is a look at the finished card. I just love all of Kelley's images in this Anchor of Hope stamp set. Make sure you check out the description box below for all the information on our Sunkissed Summer Hop, our amazing design team member videos, and our Sunkissed Summer release, which is available now at honeybeestamps.com. Have a good day. Bye-bye.